roof, but found the access door locked. But it wouldn't have helped anyway. The thick smoke made it impossible for helicopters to land. Peter Alderman was one of 70 people stuck in an office on the 106th floor. He sent 7 text messages between 9:07 and 9:25 to friends and family. His growing desperation was clear.
Someone had asked him if they could evacuate the building, and he said, we can't even move. When I spoke to him, he said, no, we're stuck. And I took stuck to be, you know, maybe in a room or something, but can't move. To me, that sounds much, much worse. He said the room was filling with smoke, so, I mean, the situation was definitely deteriorating as the minutes were going by.
You're able to see more and more people assembling at the windows. As time is passing, not only are they assembled at the windows, but they're stacked upon each other at the windows. Acting, I'm sure, with an irrational search to somehow breathe. Pushing up against the windows and bodies lying upon each other. Some people, in fact, were actually hanging out of the windows and holding on across the steel that divided the windows. They were just so desperate to get air. Imagine leaning out of the 109th floor of the World Trade Center. No rational person would ever do that.
Holy shit! Oh my God!
I've been jumping!
Numerous people jumping. Numerous people jumping.
There were things that were so big that were falling. And it was terrifying and horrifying to think I didn't recognize the objects I was seeing as people. Maybe that thought was just too horrendous, too horrifying to me.
Others did see what was happening. Lonely, 10-second journeys. A very public way of dying. The only visible fatalities in a day that claimed thousands.
Clearly we're in the middle of the worst ever act of terrorism directed at the United States on domestic soil, and it may not be over. Sources also telling the Fox News Channel...
Thomas McGuinness was trapped just below the crash zone. His wife, Ileana, had been desperately trying to reach him for over an hour.
The receptionist said, Thomas is on the phone, and right away I took it. He says, this doesn't look good, this doesn't look good. And I said, you're right, oh my God, this is like World War III. And I'm not thinking something's wrong because he's on the phone, he's calling me, so he must be okay. He must be at the bar or in the street, or he's using somebody else's cell phone, or he's on a payphone. And he says it again, he just says it like 3 times in a row. And something in the way he says it, he was calm about it, but something said to me, something's not right. And I started to get nervous, and I got upset too. I was upset, like mad at him, like, are you okay? And he said it again, this doesn't look good, this doesn't look good. And I said, just answer me, yes or no, are you okay? And that's when he said, we're in a conference room on the 92nd floor.
The fire was working its way down to the 92nd floor. As Thomas McGuinness talked to his wife, it was nearly upon him.
That's when he said to me, he goes, Ileana, you don't understand. There are people jumping from Sorry. He said there are people jumping from the floors above us. And that's when I just was like, oh my God, this is very bad. Because I'm thinking, I mean, one thing is when you're on the 3rd floor or the 4th floor and there's a fire and you jump because you think, okay, I've got to escape this fire. And you think, well, I might survive, I might get broken legs or broken back, or, you know, but these people are jumping to their deaths. That's how desperate they are, that they're jumping to their deaths. And I'm just thinking about these poor guys in this room, not for 5 minutes, but for an hour, dealing with that. and knowing that something terrible is going on up there and that it's coming down to us too because we can't get out of here. And so I know that for him, it was a goodbye call. But I just wasn't ready to accept that. But I know that it was for him because he said, "I love you, take care of Caitlin," who was our little girl. Just kept saying, "You're coming home tonight, you're coming home tonight." He says, "If we get out of here, it's gonna be a miracle." And the last thing he said was, "I gotta get down on the floor." And that's when I lost the connection. And I tried again, but I couldn't get through. There was no dial tone, there was nothing.
Thomas McGuinness's call was the last voice ever heard from the North Tower. 3 minutes later, the tower collapsed. By then, as many as 200 people had fallen from the sky. A couple of hours later, the photographer Richard Drew was back at the Associated Press newsroom at Rockefeller Center. He was now methodically working his way through the images he'd shot.
You photograph what's there in front of you. You just instinctively take pictures of what's there. So I started looking at the pictures of the falling people. I called one of our senior editors who was there at the time over to start looking at the images with me, and I said, "I really like this one. It really hit you. It's just something, that certain something that you recognize." I see this not as this person's death, but as a part of his life. There's no blood, there's no guts. It's just a person falling.
Within minutes, Drew's falling man joined thousands of images arriving in newsrooms across the world. Among them was the Morning Call, a typical mid-sized American newspaper based in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
My first reaction to it was horror. I knew it was happening. There were reports of it on television, but TV stations weren't showing bodies falling from the tower.
My mind right away went to, are we going to print this? And I felt we wanted to print it, but could the person be identified, you know? First thing I tried to do is look very closely to see, and I couldn't.
The editors wanted to choose images that best captured the story. To gauge opinion, they pinned many on the wall. Among them was the falling man.
I felt like I was punched in the stomach, you know. It was such a strong image. It was hard to look at. You feel like it's a private moment. You feels almost obscene looking at this. You